Hello, everybody, and happy Tuesday to you all, and welcome to your lighting critique. We've got a handful of images to go through here. So we're just going to go through alphabetically. Usually, for whatever reason, we're usually very front heavy on the names of the alphabet. Today, we're starting with Kat. So, Kat, you were talking about some issues that you're currently having, but let's talk about this image. What is updated? What's changed? What do you got?
Well, what's updated is I've changed the lights in a way. I restructured the layers and I got rid of a bunch of lights I didn't need.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, unless it's a light that's in the light covers or it's on her, there's no light. So I think it really helped kind of tighten up the image. I also did some stuff on her skin. I finally subdivided her skin, which made a big difference with the shadowing and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of restructured the lighting. So it's more of integrating, and I'm going to actually run the animation today. Plus, I went and rejiggered how my glare nodes are working to kind of give that glow, and it actually kind of looks more foggy now, I think, than before. This isn't a shot that you've seen before. It was just one I was testing, like going through and rendering every 10 to see how they looked, and I just liked how this one looked.
Yeah. No,
I mean, everything looks really good, and she's not as bright, so she doesn't stand out.
Mm-hmm.
I think her clothes look better. I think her skin looks better. I just think it looks more polished than any of the other ones.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the things that I'm really liking about this is the subtlety in getting these red values in the robot's metal. Like, that's really, like, because the robot is a monochromatic design in this. It's all kind of just gold. There's black bits in there as well. And it's difficult. That's a challenge because then you're like, how do I get variation in there? How do I break up that value a little bit? And you're doing a really good job. Like, you're seeing all of these small shapes, which is really, really, really cool. And all the bajillion little parts that make up this robot. So I was thinking about this with because I forget who it was. Somebody else did this in theirs.
Oh, I made the sconce lights brighter, which is helping with the lighting, and I changed the shader on the wall, so the light, like the wall behind her, was one of the darker ones, and it looks better now too.
Cool.
But I changed the color.
Cool.
Sorry, go ahead. I just remembered.
The one thing I was going to say was, like, this one, it doesn't make sense that it's kind of a yellowy orange, like, because with all the red light, I would just keep that on the red color. Red color realm, just because, like, do you know what I mean?
Okay.
And then but the one thing I was thinking about for her, and this worked out well for others, is that she's got kind of a similar situation to the robot. In her outfit is kind of one shade, and one thing that worked out really well for others is to put a texture in like the specular pass of her in the specular layer of her outfit, or maybe even just like the bump, so that there's like the color can be the same, but it's just like there's a pattern, like a texture that's within there that kind of picks up different specular highlights at different angles, and it can look kind of cool.
Okay.
That's something that I thought. I'm gonna close this. Actually, I forgot to leave this open.
Yeah, I have a texture on her, but I actually need to go back and mess with it because I may not have adjusted it right. I think I scaled it wrong, so you don't see it like you should.
Yeah. But all in all, like, Diana, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but I know that you've been looking at this with Kat too. Also, and I was looking for your thoughts. Also, the one thing about the knife, I think it's cool. The one thing, and this is tough. This is kind of a knifey thing, is because they're flat with just like a little tip, they can easily create this situation where it's like you're just kind of getting the broad side of it, and it's flashing this really bright element. It's fine if it's just on a frame or two, but you want to be careful that it's not lasting for too long, because you really want to emphasize more like the blade of it, and as opposed to the broad side of it. Like, it's okay if it picks up the blade, because then it looks sharp. But
okay, I'll see how it looks when I render the whole thing out.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I really like how the characters are looking.
Yeah, I think they're looking a lot. Because before they were feeling a little bit too filled in, and now they're looking a lot more robust, and like their darks are starting to come through really nicely.
Yeah. On the lights, so the light itself that I'm using is red, but the covers, I keep adjusting to try to get the color back to red. What color should you use? Because they were red, I brightened up the lights, which made it look more yellow. So what color should I use on the light covers to keep it red?
I would just, if it was me, I would make the, like, so in terms of, there's kind of two ways you can go about this, depending on how you want to do it. The way that I would do it, I would make the light sources red, and then make the cover clear. Because what's happening is like if you have light penetrating through a translucent surface, their colors mix, they melt. It's a
Okay.
I think it's a positive color mixture. Yeah, and then like because
Yeah,
what can happen is like yeah, it'll create weird combinations of a colored light passing through a colored thing. So you can either make the light white and the screen red, or make the light red and the screen clear.
Okay.
In terms of the way it like. I was saying this yesterday to Ruby and others. Is like the question came up of like, how do you deal with like a glowing light that's on camera like this? And I always say that I deal with it two different ways. I deal with two different. I deal with it as because it does two things at the same time, but I deal with them individually. One is the light that's coming into the space. So like if this was red, I would put like a spotlight or a point light or whatever light I end up choosing back there, and make that light red. And I just worry about how that light's influencing the space. Then my secondary thing is my concern is how it looks on camera. So then I would make a shader that has like a bit of a red glow to it as well. So like the light doesn't necessarily need to be inside the light source. It could be out. It can actually just be outside of it a little bit. It's fine.
Right.
But it's more thinking about like. And this isn't always true, but in these types of cases, it's always like, think about what is actually, like, detach the reality and be like, okay, there's a light, there's a table lamp, a street lamp, sconce, whatever, on camera. What do I visually want that to do? I want that to push light into the scene, and I want that light to look like this. I also want it to look like a sconce light, and those lights look like this. And think about those as separate problems
okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was concerned because I didn't want to duplicate all the sconces, but since I have fewer of them now, I might, if I need to put some extra lights in there, it won't be. I was trying to be efficient with lighting.
Yeah.
Like trying to balance it all out.
Yeah, it's tough. So like, yeah, and that's what happens when you try and deal with both of them at the same time. It becomes too difficult. Okay, let's hop over into Mercy is up next. So we've got the newer, updated one. Versus the old. We've got some lovely glows, which you guys know I like. We've got some more variation in the hair, which is looking really good. We have smoothing of the skin, which looks really nice. So a few things. I still see some faceting actually around the eyeball. So just make sure that geometry or that shader is smooth, because I just see like little kind of stair step around the edge there. The hair now feels like it's kind of like this is getting some sort of like bump on it back here, but the hair up front isn't. I would just make sure that whatever's happening on the back is also happening on the front. This shape right here, it's good. It's good, but like just this line feels like it's very sharp. I would just make sure that was softened a little bit. And I think those are my main notes. Do you guys have any thoughts? This is getting close. Maybe.
I just want to say she did really good with the hair.
Yeah.
It looks so much better now.
Yeah. And one thing I would say was the tip of the nose looks a little bit purple and dark. I would just like that's probably in the shader somewhere. Just try and lift that up a little bit. Yeah, but great progress on that. Overall, I meant to pull in. Oh, I think I did. Give me a sec. I meant to pull in, yeah. So, oh wait, this isn't it. Well, this is a darker version of your original one, but I was just like, the amount of progress that you've made on this thing is really fantastic overall. So really great job, Mercy. Like from the start to each iteration, you've come so far, and it's looking really great. Sorry, that was a weird test I was trying to do that I was working with different color spaces. Okay, Rachel. So. We've got the Fireflies issue on the snow. Luckily for you, we've got others that have led the way on this one, and it's just the coat. It's basically removing the coat value on the shader on the snow. ought to fix that. In terms of there's a few things. The light coming out of the window. It's nice that we're getting this bright edge. It's a little bit too bright. And it's also like contrasted against the interior, which feels a little bit darker. So I I would actually keep that brightness, maybe take it down a touch, but I would increase the amount of light inside the room. You've got light spilling out onto the front that's looking really nice. We've also found that it looks great when there's light that kind of spills out, kind of specifically on this tree, and then maybe a little bit too on these trees surrounding. In terms of the environment, I think there's a little bit of a disconnect between how bright, and I like what you're doing by adding this rim light onto these trees, but that level of brightness is a little bit bright compared to how bright the sky is, because that feels like there would be a really bright sunlight or something right there. So I actually think that there's some space for you to make the sky a little bit brighter, and then also with that light that's kind of coming in and hitting these edges of the trees, it would also kind of scrape along these mountains. Make kind of a rim here, but also kind of create some more shaping back over there. And then, yeah, I think those would be the biggest things to tweak for right now. Yeah. Anybody else have any thoughts before we move on? Sorry, I'll keep asking that. Yeah, cool. All right, Ruby. This is your render versus the, we've got your Coco reference, which this looks beautiful. This is Coco was so well done. Hey, Ruby. Oh wait, I think you might be muted. Okay. So let's just talk about this reference for a second. So the best thing about this reference is just the color, right? We've got pinks, we've got blues, we've got a little touch of yellows and purples, but mostly it's dominated by like pinky magentas and blues. And it's just kind of like it's just kind of like you can see it on the rim of this, you can see it down here, you can see it penetrating the ground, and it's kind of like the colors are fading into each other. Like there's yellow kind of coming up over the side that fades into like magenta, that comes back here into blue, back into magenta over here, and back off to white over there. It's just like everything just kind of flows together. So with yours, I think we can really push that color a lot more strongly, and I think that like you've got a good start here, and you've got the color scheme started, but I think it'll be a real matter of isolating the different colors to different sections of the image to allow us to like move, because it's like all about moving around in that flow, and kind of each section of the image kind of has that life and has that energy of that color in that space. So like I would basically make maybe everything back here, make that all kind of like, maybe make that like this, the bluish cyan color, everything over here kind of the magenta color, then everything kind of like over here maybe that yellow. Maybe not quite that balanced, but I love maybe everything in the foreground is all kind of magenta, then only kind of light coming out of this alley out of the side is kind of yellow, because I really like what's happening here and just kind of like the side glow that's coming out of there. But yeah, what you have going on inside the windows is really nice. Like the glow with like, it looks like there's plants back there. That feels very, very real to me. Yeah. Do you have any questions or anything? Oh wait, sorry. Actually, I can't hear you. Oh, sorry. Is your microphone working? Hello? Okay, sorry. We can. I guess. Sorry, I still can't hear you. Sorry, no, it's okay. If you want, we can type. We can just chat later on. It'll be good. But that's my biggest thing. Also, make sure you get a sky in there at some point. I know this is probably still like a first iteration, early pass at it, so keep that going. But like, the structure is there. You kind of reconfigured this set to feel bigger than what it normally does, and that's really great. And then having some kind of like there's also a lot of kind of like a hazy diffusion-y thing going on in there. So just like having that in the space too would be really good at once we move forward. The stone on the ground is, man, that looks good. So I would say just make sure to try and get some displacement in this one to kind of separate that out too. But really good stuff. Good start. All right, cool. Anybody else have any thoughts on this one? This is nice over here.
I mean, I would just say like like when I saw this, like I'm looking for like more opportunities to introduce like the Christmas lights, and so I know the reference doesn't have it running on the corner of the buildings, but the reference also has more doorways, and so it's like, well, does it make sense to introduce the Christmas lights on the corners of the model? If you can flip back to that one,
Yeah.
like.
Do you mean
The,
like
the
like
corner
this,
that you
this
kind of have
corner?
highlighted, yeah, and like the corner of that yellow building there, and the corner of the white one on the right. I mean, I don't know if it makes sense, but it would introduce a lot more opportunity for that glowy colored light.
Yeah, you could also do the windows too. Like you could do some in here or something, or like around the door. Yeah, you can figure out some other areas to add that.
Especially since the two main buildings, like in this one, the main buildings are further back, so you can see like the rooftops of them. But like in the actual model itself that we're working with, the main buildings are not, like the rooftops are out of camera.
Yeah, you're right. The other thing too is just like the imperfection of the placement on some of these too. They're kind of like they're not. I mean, obviously you're just kind of setting this up, and that's totally fine. But eventually, just kind of go in there and fudge them a little bit. Good stuff. All right.
It looks cool though. I wouldn't have thought to do this. It's really cool.
No, like this. The creativity that's coming out of this alley, even after all these years of having it, it's been so cool. Okay. Just because of alphabets, Sunny, you're up now. Last but not least, we've got the reference versus our first project here, which is which is like the colors are working. Actually, I'd say what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take this and just put this just kind of in the corner here, just so you can kind of take a look at it. So overall, your color scheme is in a really good place. Your light direction is looking about right. The softness of the shadows is looking really good. There are 2 or 3 main things that I think. And the other thing that I think is working really well. Do you see how there's like a subtle shift in the because like the key light is brighter here in the reference, right over here, and then it gets darker as we go this way. You've got the same thing going on in yours. It's just like a little bit brighter here, and then darkens a little bit as we go on, and I think that's like really great job with that. The couple areas that I think that we can tweak to make it look more like the reference is I think that the warmer tones are a little bit too saturated. Like if I pull back on the saturation of, just say the reds for now, I think that'll pick it up. Like pull it back just a little bit, like into that range. I think that'll feel a little bit better. And then actually when we do that, the shadow color kind of falls into place a little bit more nicely too. So it's a matter of just pulling out the saturation a little bit in the reds. And then the other thing is that the depth of field. On yours, it's really cool. It looks nice, but it makes it feel much smaller because it's a higher depth of field blur. I think if we had a little bit less, it would feel a little bit more expansive like this space is. And this is just a limitation of the materials, but like if we got some little bits of I see what's happening here. Little bits of like specular highlights, but that's not for you to concern yourself with, just because these values are or the materials on here won't really allow for that. But overall, like I said, I mean, in terms of the purposes of this assignment, which is finding the reference and matching, I think it's working pretty well. The only other thing while I'm looking at this is that I think that our like the darkest darks, like especially back over kind of here, can go just a little bit darker. Like you're reading this well, that there isn't any super darks in here, but I think we can go probably a little bit, just like a touch, a teeny tiny bit darker on some of the darks. But other than that, it really, really, really looks great. All right, cool. All right, that's all the images for today. Do you guys have any questions before we part ways and enjoy the rest of our Tuesdays?
Oh wait, I was.
Oh, yes. Where'd you go? I had yours. Where'd it go? Hold on, let me see. Tuesday. Where? Oh, I must have saved yours somewhere else. Hold on. You're absolutely right, Ruby. I had it and then I lost it. This was my fault. There you are. Man. Okay. Give me just 1 sec to get this loaded up. Okay, Austin. All right, let's take a look at this too. So sorry about that. All right, cool. All right, so we've got the lovely Daniel Radcliffe. Is that Daniel Radcliffe? Yeah. Okay, so you're exploring the world of character lighting. I think that the shape, the position of the light, the kind of the key to fill ratio is feeling about right. The color of this light is a little bit more yellow, but I'm cool if you want to go for a more orangey tone. I know you were saying that you wanted to figure out what to do with the background. The one really nice thing with portrait lighting is that you have a lot of freedom with depth of field. So you don't really have to create a super detailed background. You don't even have to create a CG background. Like you could legitimately, I don't know if this will work, but you could legitimately take the background here and put her over top of it. Just do a super janky erasure here. And you can just put it out of focus. Obviously by having her cover maybe Daniel Radcliffe. But you could do something like this and then just literally you can have almost any image, because normally when you're doing portrait photography, you're using a longer lens, like a 85 millimeter lens, because what that does is it really helps flatten the facial features a little bit. And so if somebody has big ears or something, it doesn't exaggerate that, or it doesn't take your features and kind of explode them. It kind of keeps everything nice and makes everything look aesthetically pleasing. So what that also does is create a lot of out of focus in the background, and so you have more wiggle room there in terms of that. So what I would say, that's not what I want to do. What I would say is I would go ahead and just grab an image plane and put that in there as your backdrop. So you don't have to worry about adding CG elements or anything like that. In terms of the lighting on the character itself, on herself, I think that, and this is the challenge with this character, is that so she's with her darker skin tones, it's important to maintain those values and really keep those there. And if you push too much, and we'll see this, let me go ahead and this one. You'll see this in other situations with her, actually with Ashley as well. The images that are the most successful are the ones that really take advantage of the specular value and the skin tones to really drive the shaping. So this idea of allowing the skin tone to stay on its hero color while pushing more specularity into the highlights to create shaping and in across the forehead and in some of the shadowed areas as well is really going to be the area that you really want to explore, because that will create a more dynamic character that has all the shaping and has all those elements as well. And we saw a really great example recently with Keldon's image. Let's see, just pull this one up here. We're adding, we were talking about this. It's more than you think it would be, especially on skin. Just because we have oils in our skins, we have elements that pick up this kind of specular shimmer, and really kind of exploring that look in there as well is really, really cool. It's just an opportunity for some really powerful character lighting, and then getting a little bit of rim on the edge of the hair too, because as we just kind of want to emphasize the again, find some shaping in the hair as well. be good. But this is like a good basis, good reference. It's just a matter of continuing to work with it and continuing to push it. Do you have any questions? Does that make sense a little bit?
It did. Yeah, it did. Sorry, thank you. I feel like I find myself fighting her hair a lot and like trying to like get more light, or like, you know, I've had a hard time shaping it.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice?
Yes, I do. It's so darker hair is very difficult because again, it's the same thing. It's like any dark object, because you want it to remain looking dark, but you want to add value to it to kind of get the shaping in there. So what I think is, first off, be prepared to adjust the shader on it, just because like the lighting setup that you have for this is a little bit darker, and the amount of light that by default the amount of light that needs to go into her hair to really start to get some of these like these type of values is like you really have to push it strong. Even this has got a much stronger key light than what we're seeing in your scene, but it's still just picking up just a little bit of the hair value. So what I would do is I would lift up the just in the shader, I would lift the core, like the diffuse value or the base color of it up just a little bit, as well as increasing the specularity on it just a little bit. Just because what you're looking for is, again, just because we don't need it to be like super illuminated. We just need to start picking up on some of the details in some of these areas, like just getting a little bit of around the edges of it, just a little bit of value picking up and a little bit of specularity picking up in there. That would be my advice, is to increase the shader until we start seeing that, and then play around with it from there. Or putting on a new shader altogether, because because it's just like shaders work really like when you set them up, you're kind of by default setting, like when we set these up, they're meant. We use like a light rig that's almost like daytime. You know, it's a little bit brighter, and then when you start to see them in other scenarios, whether it's like indoor scenes at night or exterior night scenes, you have to make adjustments to the shader to accommodate. So, all right, cool.
I also have
Yeah.
a slightly irrelevant question of like,
Please.
so I was setting up this asset, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I've been trying to use like the AAA assets, but I just have a really hard time setting them up sometimes.
Okay.
Because I'm just not used to like the node editor and like, you know, setting up the textures and everything.
Yeah.
I was wondering if there's, you know, if you have any resources that would help you like learn how to do that.
Sure.
easier.
Yeah. I mean, we've got so you're because we've talked about you use Arnold, so you're using Maya. We do include, although it's a little tricky, we do include the PDF in all the assets that kind of explain where everything's meant to be plugged in, because these are created using a PBR workflow, which is a physically based render workflow. So it has to have things like metalness and things like that, which the terminology doesn't always sync up to Arnold. Unfortunately, we don't. I never did make a video. I'm trying to think if I did. I don't think I made a video where I utilized all the assets from. Oh wait, in the character lighting course, I did the axolotl, I think. So I would check that, because that's actually the same modeler with the same assets, and I was putting those on there. But take a look at that. If you still have questions, let me know, and we can work on making a video that shows how to set up, like go from the asset library and get that set up.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Check it out. Thank
Sorry. Yeah, we should have. That's a good point. That would be a good thing to add too.
you.
All right, cool. All right, thank you guys so much for joining in today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you all tomorrow. All right, be good. Happy lighting,
Thanks,
everybody. Thank you.
Good one.